We are honored to welcome Rabbi Avrum Goldstein, who came from far to share his experience with us. It's truly a privilege to hear his story.
I never empty the boiler. I never turn off the boiler. And I always, every 2 weeks I empty the boiler. I still like make one. Bleeding anyone on the radio. Don't turn off the boiler in the summer. Let the pipeline go on because you may have like a situation where you decide to like
Gute Woche. First of all, I want to give thanks to the Rebbeinu Shalom to give me the opportunity to be Mekadosh Shem Shamayim Barabam and the Chushe Ruf Shlita. Speaking before you, someone that has the name Avrum Goldstein, a very Heimish Ashkenazi name. When Yidden want to know each other, one in every culture, every place, have their own way of doing things. And by Yidden, lehavdil by Yidden, when they want to know each other, the first thing they do is connections. Shalom Aleichem, what's your name? Berger. Which Berger? And right away, they become mechatunim. Could you imagine? They gave me the name Avrum Goldstein, a ger Tzedek. And they asked me, which Goldstein? And I'm like, oy vey. I was forced to admit I'm a ger. And you have to see the faces of the people like, what's dit man jetzt? What do we do now? But Yidden al Baishunim, Rachmunim, Goyim Chasudam, me geeft sich an Eitze, Lahatem es a ger. So right away, bring kokoshke for the ger, be mekar of the ger, I love you because the Torah said so. So I felt like a lulav, like an esrog. And that's why many gerim, they don't like to speak in public. They're embarrassed. But I became a yoitza min haklal. People want to know what brought a person. I mean, I understand that it's difficult for some people to understand this person that is speaking. This Zayda, with the Haimish, was at one time a goy. It can't be. It's not possible. My whole Yiddishkeit started when I was only 14 years old. I come from Puerto Rico. That's when my whole Yiddishkeit started. You see, when a Yid wakes up in the morning, he knows exactly what he's going to do. He has a hadrocha. He has a mesoira. He has mitzvahs to do. Neger Wasser, Moedeani, Neger Wasser, Davening. He goes to work, but yeshiva, a koilel. Thousands of years of wisdom of how to live. But lehavdil agoy, he doesn't have that. So his life is improvised. And I was only 14 years old, but I knew that that's not the way to live. Because people feel like you put them in a forest and tell them, find your way out. Across the street from my home, there was a bar. And they used to give in that place the frustration of living such a life. They used to get drunk, and the kisoy kasa v'kasa will come out. And I looked at them and I said, that's what's going to happen to me when I grow up. This is going to be my life. There has to be a better world. And one day, in the middle of the night, as the bar was going with the music and all the wilderei, an earthquake started. An earthquake is a frightening experience because you think that you're going to die. You have no control over your movements. And I remember looking at the ceiling shaking, and the earth was like water. And my mother screamed, together with my father, everybody out, an earthquake. And we ran out of the house. And across the street by the bar, who a second before they were doing their Yiddishkeit, they became frightened. They came out. And it's interesting, when a person thinks that he's going to die, they become religious. So they all became religious all of a sudden, and they went on their knees and they started to pray, God, forgive me, promise I'll be good, I'm not going to do this again. In Spanish, voy a ser buena, no voy a pecar más, voy a ser buena persona. And when I saw that, I said, look at this. Between them, there was a big bully. His name was Pedro. Everybody was afraid of him. And he's also on his knees and all praying, God, forgive me, promise I'm not going to be. And I said, Pedro is crying? If Pedro is crying, this place is going to close down, and they're going to become good people. The whole earthquake was about 30 seconds. After 30 seconds, there was a dead silence. And Pedro started calling his friends. Miguel, are you okay? Roberto, Juan, everybody okay? Let's go back to the bar and continue where we were left before. It really bothered me, the hypocrisy. You were only thinking about God out of convenience, out of fear, but never out of conviction. So I went to the kids my age, and I told them, you saw Pedro? He was crying like a baby. And they told me, when you grow up, you're going to do the same thing. And I said, no, there has to be a better world. It can't be. This is what's going to happen to me when I grow up. So I went to my mother. I said, Mommy, do you want me to look like these people when I grow up? And my mother, she lived in Williamsburg, here in New York, when she was a girl. So she tells me, when I was a girl, I lived in an area called Williamsburg in Brooklyn. And over there, the neighborhood was divided. One side was non-Jewish people, and the other side were the Jews. And she tells me the difference between the two places were day and night. On our neighborhood, you were afraid to walk. There was a certain darkness in the area. The minute that you walk into the Jewish area, it was bright. The Jewish people, they help each other. They are moral people, the people of God. The type of life that you're looking for, you're only going to find it by the Jews. You're not going to find it anywhere else. And I remember thinking, the Jews? You see, I don't know, I'm sure you know this, but for thousands of years, everybody talks about the Jews. And in Puerto Rico too, we read the Bible, and stories of Tanakh, the stories of the scriptures, King Solomon, King David, the coming out of Egypt, Moses. And I asked the Galach, these are beautiful stories, but I want to hear it from the Jews. This is all Jewish stories. And the Galach will tell me, the Jews, they don't exist anymore. They're no longer around. And I believe them. And here my mother tells me, go to the Jews. That's where the truth is. So I say, I'm going to go to the Jews. I had a bike. My bike had a basket. And I say, I'm going to sell newspapers. I'm going to save money. I'm going to buy a ticket. And I'm going to come to New York. And that's what I did. I saved enough money. I went to a travel agent. I won a ticket to New York as soon as possible. He booked a flight, I remember, for December 12th. I remember like today. In those days, it was a whole different system. I bought the ticket, very proud. I went to school, and I told them, I'm going to New York to the kids. And they, whenever you want to do something good, there's always going to be all kinds of koiches against you. So the kids, they started bothering me and said, don't you know, Puerto Rico is a tropical island. It's summer all year round. And here I bought a ticket to come to New York in December. So the kids started telling me, don't you know, New York City is a big freezer. You're going to freeze to death, and nobody's going to even pick you up. You'll see. And I said, I don't care. God is going to help me. And I remember the airplane landing in New York. It was a snowy day. The whole city looked white. And I looked at the water. It looked like a dark color. In Puerto Rico, the water is sky blue. So I looked, and I said, New York City is a black and white city? And then I remember going through the lobby, and the sliding door opened up, and the cold came for the first time in my life. I wasn't prepared for it. I was wearing a jacket. a backpack. And of course, I didn't look at all like I look now. I look like a regular Puerto Rican kid. And the cold came to me, and I'm shivering with cold. And it looked to me like frozen coconut is falling from heaven. And the cars are slippery, stuck in the snow. And I see people bundle up with the scarf and walking like this. And I say, how could you live like this? This is horrible. And then a black taxi driver, he had rachmanas on me. He says, excuse me, you look confused. Can I help you? Where are you going? And I said, I'm going to the Jews. And he goes, the Jews? The whole New York is Jews. Where you want to go? Before I got into the plane, I said to my mother told me, when you go to the Jews, make sure you go to the Jews and go dressed black and white. They're the religious ones, okay? So I told the taxi driver, I want to go to the black and white Jews. And he goes, black and white Jews, man, you want to go to Williamsburg. That's where they live. And he takes me to Williamsburg. He takes me to Williamsburg, and he tells me, okay, this is downtown black and white Jews. I got there. I opened the door. And the first thing that I see is lots of carriages. But in those days, they didn't have carriages like today. They have big strollers, not like the stroller like today. They have big boats with big wheels. And kids were hanging from all sides. And the kids were dressed with such aristocratic outfits. Golden buttons, velvet, beautiful kashketlich. They look like royalty. And then I see the people dressed like queens, the ladies and the men. I see a bocher with a hat and a long coat. And he had glasses. I never saw in Puerto Rico a young person with glasses, so I said, this kid must be a genius. And then I see the faces of the Jewish people for the first time. You see, even young Goyim, they are exposed to all kinds of negativity. But the Jewish people are careful. And the difference is visible on their faces. So I never saw this innocence, this Yiddishkeit and the Yidden had as compared to the way I was used to see faces. There's a certain look and stare when people are exposed to all kinds of negativity. You can see it in their eyes. The eyes betrays them. And here I'm looking, I see such an innocence, such a Yiddishkeit, such a gracefulness. And I said, my mother is right. The Jewish people are holy. I never saw faces like that before. And I say, I must be a Jew. I don't know what is going to happen, but and Hashem helped me. B'chasdei Hashem, habol etaher mesayim loy. So right away, in the corner is a whole different planet. I landed in a whole different planet. In the corner, there was a health food store. And out of the health food store comes a Yid with a long white beard. And I never seen anything like that before. The only connection that I have with a long white beard was Moses. So I looked at him. Moses is coming to help me. And I noticed that he was holding a shovel. When I saw the shovel, I got scared because I knew what he did to the Mitzri. And he's coming closer to me with the shovel. Moses is coming to me with the shovel. And as he comes closer, he goes and he tells me, Ni, shar the shnai, shovel the snow. And I say, I'm not going to fight with Moses. He tells me to shovel the snow. I'm going to listen to what he tells me. I took the shovel. I shoveled the snow. I put it in the corner, piled it up in the corner, and then I went into the store and I told him, Moses, finish. And he gave me $6 on a rice cake. I looked at the rice cake and I told him, Moses, something to drink? And he tells me, go around the corner, there's a grocery store and you can buy something to drink there. Across the street there was a grocery store, but I said, Moses told me to go there, I'm going to listen to Moses. So I went around the corner, I went to the store, I went to the back and I bought a pineapple drink. And in the middle of drinking, and the owner of the grocery tells me, I need somebody to work in the store to make deliveries for me. Do you want to work? With a heavy Yiddish accent. And I spoke with the Spanish accent. Si, mister, no problema, I work for you, no problema, I make deliveries. So he started drawing a map. I told him I just came now. Started drawing a map from Williamsburg, and he showed me all these boxes. These are the orders. You take the hand truck and go and make deliveries. So I took the boxes, put it in the hand truck, and I went out to make deliveries. New York City, you all know this. New York City is a city that everybody's always running. Even when they have no reason to run, they're always in a hurry. So I'm here, I'm trying to make deliveries, but to talk to some people, and the people pass by me like very quickly. The Yidden are passing by me, but finally I found a elderly Yid, and he was walking parallel with me, and I'm holding the hand truck with the boxes, and I told him, excuse me, I'm trying to become Jewish, maybe you can help me. He looked at me from top to bottom, and he runs away. I went to the next one, the same reaction. And the next one, finally I came back, and I started thinking this is not going to be easy. There was a lady in front of the grocery. She was waving a cash like this. So I said, I'm going to ask her. So I said, excuse me, Mrs., maybe you can. She didn't let me finish. She started calling Shomrim. Shomrim! Shomrim! And I started running for my life. I came back, and I was hiding behind the refrigerator, shaking with fear. That lady would never know that I was 10 times more afraid than her. So I said, what am I going to do? How is this going to happen? So, suddenly, from Pupa Chai, the Pupa Talmud Torah, there was a bunch of kids, about 7 kids, that came into the grocery to buy nash. That's the first time I heard Yiddish. To me, sounded like somebody has a cold. Because Yiddish is like, and I hear the kids talking this language. But I want to talk to somebody how to become a Yid. So I said, I'm going to ask them, but I'm not going to ask him I want to become a Yid because I see already what happened. So instead, I'm going to ask him about Shabbos. I didn't know how to say Shabbos. So I told them, excuse me, y'all, what do you do on Saturdays? And the kids told me, Saturday? What's it do Saturday? What is that Saturday? Finally, they hop and they started explaining to me. One of them took a cup and said, on Shabbos we make Kiddush. And I started to memorize, try to memorize every word. So that Friday night, I also took an empty cup. And I don't have to tell you what kind of Kiddush that was. I started working on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. It was very different. I noticed something is going on here because, bring it on, in a hurry, everything in a hurry. I said, the Russians are coming? What's going on? Boxes and boxes of food. And around 3:30, the owner of the groceries tells me, okay, Shabbos is coming. See you Sunday. He closes the gate. He goes home. And I remember from 4 o'clock until 6 o'clock, I did not see one person in the street of Williamsburg. I was walking around. Where's everybody? I was thinking maybe Jews are not allowed to go out of their homes on Shabbos. Then I started thinking, oh, maybe the Messiah came and left me behind. Around 6 o'clock, I started seeing people again, dressed completely different. A crown over the head, a whole different outfit, walking slowly. And I noticed no double parking, no beeping. And everybody's greeting each other. Good Shabbos, good Shabbos, good Shabbos, good Shabbos. It changed the whole atmosphere of the city. I said, a nation, a people that is willing to change a whole city like New York of millions of people because God said so. I have to be part of such a people. I don't care what it takes. So I started noticing everything that Yidden were doing. I made a deal with the owner of the grocery to sleep there was a 3rd floor, a little room. And from there, I was able to look in the streets to see the action and start to learn. And I see across the street, it was the Torah Vodas minion. And I see Yidden walking in there. And they were carrying what it looked to me at that time like pillows. Little pillows and bigger pillows. And I'm looking, and I was curious. I wanted to know what are they doing with these pillows. And I noticed through the window that they take out of the pillow a sheet and put it over the head like this. And then they take a belt and put it around the arm. Very tight. And I was, wow, that's interesting. But I was afraid to ask. But there was a guy working in the grocery. for quite a few years. So I asked him, he said, why the Jewish people, what is this when they put a sheet over their head and they put something around their arm? And the guy tells me, the Jewish people is all about money. It's all about money. When they have a pack of money together and they want to know how much money they have, they don't want other people to see how much money they have. So they cover themselves with a sheet like this. And when you see them shaking, it's because they're counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then when they finish counting, they put the money in this pocketbook that is very tight so nobody would steal it. And I believe them. And as I'm walking away from him, he tells me, by the way, they do this every day. I said, wow, that's a lot of money. Every day the kids will come in, and they will be my biggest rabbis. Everybody else was always in a hurry. So I asked the kids every day something else. But there was a lot of misunderstandings. I wanted to know what Yidden do in a besmedrish. But I didn't know how to say besmedrish. I said to them, what do you do in the temple? And the kids look at me like, temple? What's this temple? What's a temple? A Yid passes by and tell them, the Beis HaMikdash. So the kids come by. I'm thinking about besmedrish in Williamsburg. The kids tell me we shecht animals every day. And the other kid goes, and we spritz blood in all the corners. And then the other Yingo, he goes, and the Ketoiris, we put 11 things in a box, and the smoke goes straight to Hashem, even on a windy day. And I said, these I have to see. So I got up next day in the morning, very early, and I decided I'm going to walk around. I started looking at every chimney in Williamsburg to see where there's a straight smoke. And then I came to Bedford Avenue, a big old shul over there. It's closing by Cheder today. And I'm standing there for early in the morning to wait when they're going to bring the sacrifices. And I'm waiting and waiting and waiting. Finally, there's a Yid over there. He says, excuse me, what are you looking for? Can I help you? And I tell him, when are you going to bring the animals to be slaughtered? And of course, he thought I was calling Yidden animals. He started screaming at me, anti-Semite, I'm going to call the police, I'm going to have you arrested. And I ran for my life again. I'm hiding behind the refrigerator. Finally, the kids came, and these are Hasidic kids from Williamsburg. So I asked them, what do I need to do to be Jewish? And the kids told me, you want to be a Yid, you have to have pious. You have to have a couple, and you have to have tzitzis. Then you'll be Jewish. So I said, no problem. I went to Hoffman's Purim store. I bought a yarmulke. I bought tzitzis. I shaved my head. It looked like two rugelig. My face looked like two rugelig, like on the side like this. And the next day I went to the grocery to make deliveries like that. When I walked in, the owner of the grocery goes, hi! And I asked him, what's happening? You'll find out. Williamsburg has a tremendous miler, and they will tell you whatever they're thinking, it's not. So I came out with the hand truck. Not a second passed. A Yid goes, are you Meshiga? And I tell him, what happened? Yesterday you're a goy, you're a Yid, you're making fun of me? I said, no, are you a spy? Are you a spy? I know who you are. I said, no, I want to become it's not for you, take that off. It's very hard to be a Yid. I finished talking to him. The next one, the same Drisha B'Chakira. The whole thing, all over, everyone, Lee Avenue, Bedford Avenue. As I'm coming back, you could imagine, very exhausted. Then as I walked in the grocery, the kids came from the cheder, and they looked at me, and you can see in their faces like, oh, what do we do now? Was Titman yet? So they went in the back from the grocery, and I could hear them talking very loud. Like, die guys dem zoeken? Ich hem zoeken. I'm telling him, you tell him, no, you tell him. And we guys zoeken zusammen. And you have to know the Williamsburg, the Satmar. So kids came by, and they tell me, if you want to have a Tzioni, you're going to be a Tzioni, okay? If you're going to become a Yid, you're not a Tzioni. And it's not going to be easy. You'll need a rabbi, some 3 rabbis. That's when I find out that it was a whole system. Then it's going to take a long period of time. Baruch Hashem, I was very determined. And Mrs. Berger, a customer in the grocery, she had Rahmanas on me. And she gave me the telephone number of Rabbi Goldstein. Rabbi Goldstein, he lived in Williamsburg, but he was a menahel in a yeshiva in Queens. And he gave me an appointment to come to his office. I came to his office, And I told him I want to become a Yid. He asked me many basic questions. And then he put a chair between me and him, and he said, we have a commandment in the Torah, Lefanai Iver, lo yisitem michshol. Before a blind person, don't put a stumbling block. You're a goy, you can do whatever you want. If I'm going to make you for a Jew, you know how many things you're going to have to change? Shemira Sanayim, learning Torah, Midas. He tells me we have a Yom Tov called Yom Kippur. For 26 hours we don't eat and we don't drink anything. Can you do that? And I said, if I have to stand on my head to be a Yid, I want to be a Yid. He says, a one-way ticket, he tells me. You cannot go back. Once you become Jewish, you cannot change your mind. He said, that's what I want. And he tells me, okay, I'm going to learn with you until the last minute, and you decide, but if you change your mind, you cannot change your mind after you become a Yid. The first thing he asked me was, you know what talis and tefillin is? And I told him, no. These are the bags that we carry. I'm sure you've seen them. Oh, yeah, I told him. That's where you put your money. And he looked at me like, what? It took him half an hour to have. And then he started teaching me how to make a brocha, Hilchot Shabbos. I learned with him for about a year and a half. And then he tells me, I see that you know the basics. I'm going to take you to a big poisek, Ramosh Shebik, Zochrein Abrocha. He's going to fahed you. He's going to ask you many questions. I'm going to do whatever he says. Ramosh Shebik, Zochrein Abrocha, was a giant. He spoke English. And he sat with me. He gave me, I remember, coffee with kokos cake. And then he tells me, I heard that you want to become a Yid. And I says, yeah, more than anything. And he tells me, you don't have to. I say, I don't have to. What do you mean? No, you know, we have such a thing about Chassidei Omas Ha'olam. Be a friend of the Jews. That's it. So no. I want to be a Yid like you. When I'm going to be your age, I want to look like you. And then he tells me, but you know, you could be a Benoyach, 7 commandments, that's it. I said, no. I know what a goy is. I don't want to be a goy. I want to be a Yid like you. And then he tells me, you know, right now nobody hates you. When you become a Yid, they're going to hate you. You heard about the Holocaust? You heard about the Inquisition? You heard about the hatred against the Yidden? And I told him, you know, I've been around Goyim for long enough to know that the reason why people hate the Yidden is because they're jealous, they're envious. All the comments that I hear from them all these years were based on jealousy, envy. And I told him, I have a choice. Should I be envious? And Cholila, an anti-Semite? Or I should become like you and be part of the people of Hashem? I'm not stupid. I want to be just like you and follow the ways of the Torah. So he said, but it's not only for you, it's for your children and your grandchildren. He said, that's what I want. Are you sure? Because you're young, you can change your mind. I'm 1,000% sure. And then he closed his holy eyes, I remember, and he meditated for a second. I'm sure that he was asking Siyata Deshmaya, you know, such a shala. And then he said, okay, we're going to accept you. When he said that, I felt like they took a heavy load out of my shoulders. And I ran back to Williamsburg. And I was so excited. Everybody in Williamsburg already knew. They have good communications in Williamsburg in those days. And I walked in, and they're going to make you Jewish. How do you know? We know everything here, he tells me. 2 weeks after that, I had a bris. Just before the bris, Rabbi Goldstein said, you can still run away. I told him, no. And I had a bris. And after the bris, they gave me the name Avrom, after Avram Avini. And Rabbi Goldstein told me, from now on, you're like my son, so you're going to have my last name. And that's how I became Avrum Goldstein. 2 weeks after that, I went to the mikveh. Mikveh has the koyach to make a goy for a Yid. You go into the water, you say to the goy shevelt, goodbye. And I go into the water and came out of the waters, made a brocha like in halacha, and became a part of Klal Yisrael. Right away, I remember Rabbi Goldstein saying, a goy went to the water, a bochir came out of the water. I have a yeshiva for you, so I went to Yeshiva Or Samayach to learn. Then I went to Yeshiva Ner Yisrael in Baltimore. And Baruch Hashem, you know, you don't have to be a big chucham to know the difference between Yidden and Goyim. When you make Havdalah today, you did not make Havdalah only between Shabbos and the weekdays. You made Havdalah ben Yisrael lo Amim. It is evident. Anyone who has Seichel knows immediately the incredible difference of Yidden and Goyim. But you could imagine how I felt when I started learning the wisdom, the common sense of Yiddishkeit, the halacha, the why. I started learning the brochas of HaKoros HaTov, the Inyonim of Shabbos, the Shmira, the halachas, the hadrocha. So I felt like I found a diamond, and then a whole treasure after that. Baruch Hashem, I have challenges. Obviously, I landed from a different planet. I'm trying to explain how does a Yid look like when he came from a different door. Everybody here grew up this way, and here I come from a different world. So I made a lot of mistakes. I have to change a lot of things. One of the things was I was in Williamsburg, very Hasidic place. I was wearing outfit that was completely not like Williamsburg. I was wearing a straw hat with a feather, a green suit with a chai here, I remember. And I asked, the owner of the grocery asked me for Shabbos, a pupa chassid. I want you to come my first Shabbos, your first Shabbos, you're going to come to me. So I'm going to daven in pupa besmedrish. So I asked somebody, how should I go dress now? Now that I became a Yid, and he said, stay like this. Stay like this. Later, you can change with time. So I said, okay, fine. So you could imagine I walk into this Hasidic shul, and the minute that I walked in, everybody, Wusidus, Veridus, what is that? Baruch Hashem, they were mechazik me, the Rebbe's son was mekarev me and showed me where to daven. Then I went to my first Shabbos Suda. Every single experience was a profound change in the incredible wisdom of Yiddishkeit in my life. You see, Goyim, they don't have achdus in a family. It cannot really be called a family in the true concept of the word, because they have no, one believes, the other one doesn't believe, the other one does, the other one doesn't do, the other one, it's separation. I walk into a Shabbos home, a Yiddish shtib, and all the kids are sitting down, and they're all, the achdus on the Shabbos table, the singing of the Shomer Aleichem, the mother like a queen, the father like a melech, in such a beautiful atmosphere. I said, wow, Miki Amcho Yisrael. And then the food came, the kiddush, challah, and gefilte fish. I didn't know what gefilte fish was. I thought it was ice cream. In those days, they didn't have dips like today. They have only chrein, the horseradish, which I thought was cranberry sauce. And everybody's eating nicely, so I was expecting something very sweet. I gave a bite to that gefilte fish with chrein, and it wasn't it was the chrein, frisch geriebene chrein. It was the chrein that was freshly, you couldn't make alachilas muror on that chrein, I'm telling you. So I went, it's burning. And I told him, what kind of Jewish ice cream is this? And he says, it's not ice cream, it's fish. And then he tried to explain. Sunday morning, somebody calls me from the other side of the street, very loud, Avrum Goldstein, come here. And I told him, yeah, I saw you in Pupa. You look like a Kratzmachboim, a colorful tree. You became a Yid already. So why you go dressed like this? So I said, because you have to listen to every Meshugana. Come here. And he took me, and he bought me a Hasidic hat with a long coat, a long jacket. I walk into Pupa. I didn't know the halachas of the hats. I didn't know this is Litvish, this is Hasidic. I didn't know this is Pupa, this is, I didn't know. I told everybody goes with the hat the way they like. So I walk into a Pupa with the stuff on it, and it's a certain type of Hasidic hat. And the Pupa Chassid called me, come here. In Pupa, we don't go with such a hat. We go with a hoiche biber hat. It's a different hat. So I go, okay. So I went and bought another hat. Biber hat. I look now. I'm Shlomeinu now. I go into Satmar. I'm davening in Mincha, finish Mincha, and somebody comes. I thought you became Jewish. Why would you go with us a hat? We go with the flat ones over here. So I bought a flat one. I go back to Pupa. Meshigen Eger. Tzedek, I didn't know. It took me time to chab. Bizyonis that I had in front of people, Ribono Shel Olam. They told me by Kriya Shema, you have to cover your eyes like this, okay? So I said, fine. But he didn't tell me that Shabbos in the morning, they bring out the Sefer Torah, Shema Yisrael, you don't do it. So I went in front of everybody, Shema Yisrael, and Shema Yisrael. And one of them slapped away the hand from me, not now, nicht jetzt. And I said, but you took me time to chap all these things. I remember learning, my first learning of Mishnah, Avaye, Meyer, and I asked him, who is right? Because there's many opinions here. And he tells me all of them. All of them? How could it be? Welcome to Judaism. So these are things that I experienced. And Baruch Hashem, the time passed. I was able to learn, and again, more and more, Simchas HaChaim. I was zoichet to meet a lot of big people who invited me for Shavuos and gave me hashpos. And the time came for me to get married. It wasn't an easy parsha for a get tzedek. I could imagine Rabbi Bick, before I was Megai, he told me that you're going to have 3 things that you have to think about before you're Megai. Number 1, he tells me it's going to be very difficult for you to get married. And number 2, you may find a lot of Yidden, unfortunately, that they may not behave according to what they're supposed to. I don't want you to become disappointed if you see a Yid, then he's not doing what he's supposed to. And I remember he puts his hands together like this and he says, Judaism with Jews should mean the same thing, but sometimes it doesn't. And I don't want you to be disappointed. And the third thing he tells me, you have to develop a Yiddish way of thinking. We have a mentality that you cannot learn from the Mishnah Berurah, from books. You cannot learn this. You have to live it. So you have to live the experience of being a Yid and think like a Yid. We have our way of talking, our way of sitting, we have our politics, our comments, our sarcasm. Our one thing does not mean the other, so you have to get used to all of them. And by the way, that took me years to chap. But the time came for me to get married, and I went to Pupa Rebbe. I had shaykhs with Pupa because I was in the summer camp, a counselor. And I told him, what should I do about Shidduchim? And he tells me, go to Eretz Yisrael. He gave me a letter with $1,000, buy a ticket for Yontif, for Sukkot. And he met Hashem, you're going to find a Shidduch. And I came to Yerushalayim, Ira Kodesh. Right away, I found where to be, over there in Mashorim. And on the first day, Chalamoid, one of the Talmidim, Rabbi Goldstein's yeshiva, was coming to Rabbi Yankov Maya Shechter for a brocha. And I went with him. Rabbi Yankov Maya Shechter, one of the very choshev Yidden in Yerushalayim, somebody told him who I was, and he tells me, oh, I have a shidduch for you. My Rebbetzin, she came from Mexico. She became a Giyoris in Mea Shorim. And I came from Williamsburg, so it was a Gazayra Shuvah. So we met on Shemini Atzeret. This was a very Hasidic shidduch. We met for 20 minutes. The Rabbonim there, my Rabbonim there, with my backup. We met for 20 minutes and we decided, you know what, the Ribono Shel Olam is the Shadchan. What else there to wait? Motzei Yontif was the Tanoim. Mamash Motzei Yontif. 3 Rabbonim came to write the Tanoim, and it was me and the Kala, that's it. But you know, it was one of the wonderful things about being a Yid is that a Yid doesn't get lost when things don't work out. Right? And you know, a Goy start kicking and shouting and cursing, and a Yid, something, okay. So one of the Rabbonim, he looks at Tanoim, 3 people, it's pasnish. So what did he do? He got up and he goes to the window in Yerushalayim, Ira Kodesh. Ager mit agiyoyres atenoyim. Over 80 people showed up. And they came in with shirayim from Yontef. They put it on the table like this. It looked like a high-class buffet table. And they danced with me. They didn't know who I was, but they behaved like they knew me forever. Miki Am Chesroel. And then on the plane back to New York, I was thinking, what kind of chassan I'm going to have? I mean, no mechatonim, no money, no yiches. What's going to be? By the airport, there was already 9 Yingelite. One of them had a big sign that said, Avrum Mazel Tov with balloons and everything. And they tell me, you're going to have a beautiful chasana. My chasana, when a ger gets married, everybody's a mechitin. Because Avram Avinu is the main mechitin. So everybody felt that this is I'm a Korov here. I'm connected. And all Klal Yisrael from all different crowds came to my chasana. It was such a achdus, such a beautiful thing to see, eating together from all different crowds. And they make me feel with so much ahava. I called my mother to come to the chasana. I couldn't go to a chasana, get married without her, because after all, I have to have gratitude for her telling me about Yidden, and I wanted her to be proud of me and what I have achieved. So I called her and I said, I became engaged. Congratulations, you're getting married. And I said, yes, and I want you to come to my wedding. Of course, I'll come to your wedding. And I tell her, but you have to dress a certain way, it's news. Tell me how to dress, I'll be there. The Haimische ladies, they were mekar of my mother, the entire chasana, from the Kabbalah Sponim all the way to the mitzvah dance. At 4 o'clock in the morning, my mother tells me I had the best time of my life. The Jewish people, as I told you, is a holy people. I'm so proud. I'm so happy of what you have chosen, what you have achieved. All my other kids, they have to call me every day. You can call me once a year. You're in good hands, so I'm proud and I'm happy. Baruch Hashem, the time passed. 7 children, Baruch Hashem. 22, Einiklach, Baruch Hashem. 2 bar mitzvah, Einiklach already, Baruch Hashem. Yirayim v'shleimim. This is a tremendous hakoros hatov that I have for the Ribbono Shel Olam. As I said before, it's not easy for a ger to speak in public. But I felt that it was a necessity for 2 reasons. And I'm Messiah with this. A father comes to me. I was in Muncie quite a few years ago. And he tells me, Avrum, maybe you can help me. How can I help you? And he uses the word in Yiddish, manzin glitscht weg, from Yiddish weg. In Yiddish, glitscht weg is like he's slipping away. You know, I didn't associate the word. I know a goy can become a Yid, but how does a Yid glitscht weg? How does a Yid walks away from Yiddishkeit? Yeah, I try all kind of askonim, I try all kind of segillas, and my son, no, but happens something with him, I don't know what to do. Maybe somebody like you that came from a different background, different set of eyes, maybe you can be of help. And I said, I never did that before, but of course I will. The Bacher came. I invited him for lunch. I have a very good sense of humor. But when he walked in, he was extremely sad. Extremely sad. And I said, you look like you just came out of Auschwitz. Are you okay? And he goes, So we're eating, and I'm trying to make a conversation with him. And then it's, why do you look so sad? Why do you look so zerbrochen? And he tells me, because my whole life is pressure. Pressure for davening, pressure for learning, pressure for why cannot be like a goy that can do whatever he wants? Could you imagine saying those words to a ger tzedek? Especially someone that knows that there's no such a thing as a happy goy. Goyim desperately, every day they're trying to make themselves happy. And they try all kinds of methods. Some of them go into piercing here, a wrinkle over here, tattoos all over. I mean, they try everything. Gashmias after gashmias, and they don't get there. That's why in America they have so many people in depression. Only the Torah can make a person happy, because it says, Meshivas nefesh. What a person needs is to speak to his soul. And this Bocher Nebuch, he doesn't have. And I said, Ribbono Shel Olam, give me wisdom to know what to say to this Bocher. I'm a musician. I play the violin, and I sell violins in music stores. So I was going to a music store, and I told the Bocher, I have to have an appointment to sell my instruments. Maybe you want to come with me? So he tells me, oh, I like music. I'm a Levi. I'll go with you. So I come to the store. As I come into the store, the owner of the store, a goy that he liked a lot, he wanted to become like a Ben Noach. He was very knowledgeable about Tanakh. He goes, I tell him, by the way, the Bocher went right away and he started playing with the keyboard over there in the music store. And I tell the goy, by the way, this gentleman that is playing the keyboard, he's a Levite from the tribes of Israel. He's a member of the tribe of Levi, a Levite. And the guy goes, what? You mean the people that used to sing to God in Jerusalem? Yes. He's a direct descendant from them. And he tells me, oh my God, such an honor to have such a person here. Wait a second. He takes the microphone and he speaks to all his workers. And he says, stop working, everyone. Stop working. We have a Levite here from the tribes of Israel who's going to bless all of us. The Bocher is playing. Over 70 goyim come down. And they're all gathered in one corner, I remember. And they're all looking at the Bocher like he's a malach. He noticed what happened. He gets up and he comes to me and he tells me, Avrum, what happened here? And I told him, you're a Levi, and they all want a brucha from you. And he goes, are you Meshuggah? I said, don't make a chilul Hashem, you have no choice. And he had no choice. All these goyim came before him, and like a big Rebbe, God bless you. God bless you. God bless you. God bless you. Some of them came, my wife and kids are coming, wait a minute, I want you to bless them too. And he started to cry. In the car, he cried for a long time. And I let him cry. And I asked him, what happened? Why are you crying? And he tells me, this is the first time in my life that I began to appreciate who I am. I didn't have until now. He started chazering, he started connecting everything that he knew, but he put it in the back of his head. Avrum Avinu, Yitzchak Avinu, Yaakov Avinu, Shevet Levi, and that's how it brought him back to Yiddishkeit. So I decided I have to speak in public because, of course, in communities, especially big communities like this, we take a lot of things for granted. And when you start taking Yiddishkeit for granted, you start losing inspiration and sense of purpose. And we're not allowed to let that happen. Now, Baruch Hashem, B'chasdei Hashem, I'm in a kehillah here with Yidden, Yerayim V'Shleimim, Baruch Hashem, but it's good to hear it from somebody who came from a different background. We are not allowed to make Judaism look like a culture. Judaism is a relationship with the Ribbono Shel Olam. That's what it means to be a Yid. And another reason I decided to speak in public, my mother. 25 years after my wedding, my mother said, I took a building in New Jersey, Thanksgiving holiday. All your relatives are coming, and I also want you to come. When she said that, I said, oy vey. Nicht for mir. Not for me. I'm a ger tzedek, but I'm telling you, there's no Yiddishkeit in my life. There's no zichroinus. There's no benkenish. There's no nostalgic feelings about anything goyish in my life. But I still have hakuras tov and respect, of course. You cannot be a yid without that. So I was very respectful, and I said, Mommy, I'm sorry, but it's not for me. But she kept insisting, and then my sister called, my older sister called, and then my brother called my father, and I said, I have to ask a Rav what to do. So I went to my Rav, and I asked him, you know what I am? And he tells me, because of hakuras tov for your mother, go to that place for 10 minutes, say hello and goodbye to make a Kiddush Hashem, all by yourself. And that's what I did. I walk into the place with a big smile. How is everybody doing so many years? And everybody started to cry. I was the only one smiling. It looked like a funeral. I asked my sister, how come everybody's crying? It looks like a funeral here. And she tells me, we envy you. The minute that you walked in, there was a change on the atmosphere. Abraham, you made an investment in your life, and it's paying off. And by us, it's the opposite. Every day that you get older and older, you will feel happier and happier because you have accomplished something in your life. And by us, it's exactly the opposite. You want to see our children? Your nephews that I never met? She takes me to the basement. I go to the basement, and what are they doing? Playing video games. And they're playing these games like the whole life depended on this game. Completely kidnapped by the system. And they're schwitzing, like this. Mom is unbelievable. The other one looks like a cash register, chatting with the world, except with his family. And like this. Unbelievable. My sister goes and tells them, look who's here. Uncle Avram is here. He's Jewish, It was not easy to bring him, say hello. Only one of them turned around, hello, uncle. And that was my whole Kabbalah Sponim. My sister tells me, you see, they are not human anymore. They're little monsters. They have no respect. They have no guidance. We lost them a long time ago. Every day that passes, they're farther and farther away from us. But you is exactly the opposite. When I heard this, I said, Oy Ribono Shel Olam. If I wouldn't have become a Yid, Rachmana litzlan, this would have been my children. They would have looked like this. I went home, I called my children, and I told them, Kinderlach, tomorrow we're going to make the bracha Baruch Shalosani Goy with tremendous ahava and gratitude to the Ribono Shel Olam that we are zoiche to be Yidden. And we don't have this serious nebachdike situation of the Goyshe Welt. So because of HaKoras HaTov, then I also need to express, after being, I went to Tzadikim and Shabbos and Yom Tovim, ehrliche Yiddische Mishpoche, then taught me how to be a Yid. And on HaKoras HaTov, I have to speak in public to show my gratitude and give a little bit back of what was given to me. And that's the reason why I decided to speak in public. So, because I play the violin, so I'm going to play it with the Rishus and the Ru. I'm going to play two negunim with my violin. And I want to bless everyone. The Rav Shlita, Arich Hashem V'Shonim, Hatzlocha, Brocha. We should always feel the Simchas HaChayim in Yehadus. We ehrliche connect to Yidden. You are the Nasav and Nishma, the whole story of Yaakov Avinu, Levado, and everything they experience. You are the Levitic representative of what that was. And it will continue, Be'ezras Hashem Yisborach. I'm going to play with my fiddle. Yeah, I live in Scranton. 13 years now. Yeah.
Very close to Shabbat.
Oh, yeah? Yeah, design.
I grew up in Scranton.
Oh, really? So what's your, a long time ago? Okay.
Who's Daniel Goldstein?
He's one of my Talmidim.
Okay, because I rent this place to him on Hickory Street.
Oh, yeah, sure, wow.
I work for Ruben and Ari.
Yeah. Shalom Aleichem. He could be Jewish, huh? Yeah. Okay. I never heard it, but...
We're going to have dessert now quickly. Rabbi Avrum is going to play a song, and we're going to followed by raffles right now.
I get to walk. I get to walk.
Sitting right back here.